Wow, this is going so much better than the original Ratchet and Clank Marathon. Not that that's an accomplishment, but this time I'm not stopping at today's game. Yeah, in case you don't remember, at the time of the original Marathon, this game was the latest to come out, which also inadvertently caused a 5-year-long hiatus until Rift Apart came out. So welcome everyone to my re-review of 2016's Ratchet and Clank.
Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ratchet and Clank Revisit. So after the spooky month of October, I say we jump back into the intergalactic duo's adventures, but this time reimagined with today's game, Ratchet and Clank. Now Ratchet and Clank, which from now on I'm referring to as RNC 016 because fuck you, is an action-adventure platformer and third-person shooter, released for the PlayStation 4 in April of 2016. It's meant to be a reimagining of the original 2002 classic. Why? Because when game companies don't know what to do with their IPs, they
reboot it, renew it, reshoot it, redo it, and reuse it, retool it.
The game was originally scheduled to be released in 2015, but was delayed along with the movie, which I'll talk about in the next video, to April of 2016. Thanks for the early April Fool's joke, Insomniac. I remember this being the first game I had ever pre-ordered for, but I'll talk about what that special pre-order deal is later. But now, here's the question. Is RNC 016 any good, and is it one I can recommend to you? Let's find out. So the plot opens in the maximum security prison where prisoner Shiv Helix, voiced by Predatta Sciorri, is being escorted to a new joint cell with an imprisoned Captain Quark. Shiv just so happens to be a huge fan of Quark, which honestly now makes sense as to why he's in prison, because given Quark's track record in the original continuity, I think that warrants. Anyways, Shiv tells Quark that a holo game is being made based off of his last adventure. Eager for attention like my own dog, Quark tells Shiv his side of the story. It's here where we jump to Veldin, where Ratchet is going to Galactic Ranger tryouts as he dreams of joining the Rangers. And who typically funds this franchise?
Well, everyone, I think we all know where this is going, so let's just get to the end.
Now, despite passing with flying colors, Ratchet is still denied because of course he does, after the other Rangers, which includes Cora Verilux, voiced by Bella Thorne, and Brax Electrius, who is voiced by Mick Winger in the game, who is also known as the voice of Ludwig in the Cuphead Show, and also Poe in Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness. They take a look at the Lombax's criminal past. Yeah, apparently Ratchet did some very shady things before this, including messing with the time-space continuum.
Are you serious? Stop fucking the future!
Meanwhile, on the planet Cortu, Chairman Alonzo Drek, voiced this time by Eric Bauza, who you may recognize more as the voice of Splinter in Rise of the TMNT, both the show and the movie, is overseeing the creation of his mechanical army, along with his ally, Dr. the Fairy.
Kill it with fire!
Gross.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Nefarious! What have they done to you? Yeah. If there's one thing a lot of people can agree on, it's that Nefarious isn't exactly a looker when he's flesh and blood. In fact, in the fanbase, we gave this Nefarious the nickname of Pickle Nefarious.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Back to the plot, it's here where Clank is created after a power outage and steals a ship which Madagascar's on Veldin, where Ratchet finds it and takes Clank back to the garage, which is ran by Grimroth Raz, or Grim for short, who is voiced by Travis Willingham. And Ratchet fixes Clank up, and the little robot tells Ratchet that an army is approaching Aliro City. Ratchet offers to help, and the two set off to Kurwan, and after helping the Rangers fight against the army, they are instantly recruited as new Rangers. Yay for achieving your dreams! Can I get my dream of getting more subs, please?
No.
After a lot of extra shit that if I were to explain would just bloat this entire video, Quark calls for a meeting with all the other few Rangers on the team and plans an all-out assault. Oh god, I meant attack on Quark 2, which is successful, and they discover a weaponized space station called the Planetizer. Nefarious made this so that Drek can create the perfect planet for his race by the shattered chunks of the planets that the Planetizer destroys.
Affection takes sacrifice, Brady. We can be better, stronger. The Master Smurf race!
Master Smurf? I'm a Smurf. You've been on those Smurfing-on forums, haven't you?
John F. Kennedy Jr. is alive and he will be vice president.
Who's John F. Kennedy?
I don't know! Look over here!
On the next mission, after fighting through the station, Ratchet is then captured by Drek, since for most of the game, Quark has been secretly feeding Drek info. Drek then stuffs Ratchet into an escape pod as the planet Novalis is destroyed. But don't worry, because as it turns out, all 43 million plus citizens evacuated just in time.
Fucking bullshit. Fucking bullshit. Fucking bullshit.
Okay, I just hate it when this happens, where a place gets destroyed and somehow, someway, by some stretch of a miracle, all the residents evacuated. If you want Ratchet to feel some sort of guilt, have at least, I don't know, 500k of those citizens dealing with whatever radiation that the Planetizer's piss beam gave off. How is a movie based off Steven Universe doing this better? Speaking of which, back on Velden, Clank manages to talk Ratchet back into being with his fellow Rangers, and after getting a hologuise from Kalibo 3, we re-enter the Planetizer, disguised as Quark, later fight and beat the real Quark, and then fight Dr. Nefarious. Yeah, turns out Nefarious betrayed Drek by turning him into a sheep. So, guess that fills the Ratchet and Clank vs. Dr. Nefarious quota for the game. It's a twist villain! Anyways, the Planetizer manages to be off course from hitting planet Umbris, so enraged, Nefarious deploys his personal battle mech with the intent of destroying Umbris, which will then cause a supernova, thus ending all life in the Solana galaxy.
Shit just went from 0 to 100 real fucking quick.
Though, after the fight, the mech flies into the court, ending in Nefarious dying. Permanently this time.
Extremely big shit.
Ratchet, Clank, and Quark all manage to escape in time, though, before the space station is disintegrated from the heat of Umbris' atmosphere. In the present, Quark and Helix are picking up trash near the Hall of Heroes. While looking at a statue of himself, Ratchet and Clank greet Quark. Seizing the opportunity, Helix steals Joker's neutral special, destroys several patrol bots, hijacks Ratchet's ship, and escapes. As the duo prepare to go after him, Ratchet asks Quark if he would like to come along, which he gladly accepts, ending Ratchet and Clank 2016. Yep, it ends on a cliffhanger that will never be resolved because Insomniac just wants to go back to the original timeline. Like, what is this? Most half-decent YouTube comic dub series? So that was the plot, and it's okay. It's a fine reimagining of the story, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of things from the original 2002 game that I definitely prefer over this. For one, not making Dr. Nefarious the twist villain. I know this version of Shaman Drek is more comedic than threatening, but just throwing in Nefarious as the ultimate final boss at the end is just an excuse to have him to be the final boss. Why not just work away for Drek and Nefarious to both be the final boss? Oh right, because otherwise we won't get Drek being turned into a sheep, because all the kiddies will get a laugh at that. Yeah, in case you could tell, the reimagining is somewhat more kid-friendly. By name only, at least. Still, that means that whole character arc with Ratchet from the original 2002 game completely scrapped in favor of the two instantly becoming besties from the get-go, which is another thing that I prefer having in the 2002 game. Ratchet's character arc. Don't just have two complete strangers be instantly close besties. Literally, the Sonic movie was able to do this better. Twice! Have them bicker a bit, resolve their differences by the end of it all. I know how real friendships are like, and I'm someone who doesn't have that many friends.
Oh, I made myself sad.
So, is the writing any good? Well, It's not bad, but if there is a way to sum up the dialogue while trying to be funny, most people describe the in-game dialogue as having sonic boom syndrome, where people don't shut up.
Cool. Yes. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. I got it. Okay. Yes. Yes. Oh. Cool. Yes. Yes.
Sag schon, Sasuke!
But if you can look past all this, which if you can, kudos to you, it's fine. But for those who can't, it may remind you of those bad remakes that strip what made the original good and just made it fluff for your nostalgia to fill. But is the gameplay any good? So the gameplay of RNC 016 is the same as all the other games from this franchise I talked about, minus All for One and that other game. Who knew talking about the same thing over and over would be repetitive and annoying? It has us in control of the duo, and name of the game is always the same: go to different planets, blow shit up, collect bolts, die, yada yada yada. Though this time we have two new weapons in this game, the Proton Drum and the Pixelizer. With the Pixelizer being something the game crams down your throat throughout your first playthrough, more than YouTubers telling you to go buy
Raid Shadow.
I get it!
So as per usual, we have your standard gold bolts, which we can use for unlockables and cheats like unlimited ammo and health, but exclusive to this game are holo cards, which is so not a ripoff of Adventure Time or Yu-Gi-Oh! In any way.
Mokuba, what do I always tell you? If at first you don't succeed,
I flooped the pig.
When we have a set of 3, we get special bonuses like more cards, raritanium bolts, or getting the Omega version of our weapons in challenge mode.
I'm sorry, what the fuck?
Or just adding more damage to our wrench. This is also how we get the Rhino in this game, by collecting these special Rhino holo cards, which have the different Rhinos throughout the franchise's history from 2002 to 2013. Wait a minute. Isn't this a different timeline? Then why the fuck are we having any connections to any of the previous games?
Butthole.
Once we get the cards, we bring them to Mr. Deal Miser himself, the salesman, which according to the credits, this is supposed to be Slim Cognito. We give him the cards and we have our Rhino, which looks like the one from Tools of Destruction, though it functions like the one from A Crack in Time.
Saying if you keep, pick one.
Slap on the infinite ammo cheat and congratulations, you effectively made the game an absolute cakewalk.
Who the fuck wanted?
If you remember at the beginning of the video in the overview portion, I mentioned a special pre-order bonus. Well, if you were to pre-order this game, you get the Bouncer, which I sadly did not get because at the time when I first got this game, my PS4 was at my grandpa's house and at the time he didn't have internet there, so sadly I didn't get to use the code to get this weapon. And I'm still bummed that Insomniac didn't make this like cheap DLC like the additional Devil Breakers Capcom did to Devil May Cry 5. Now there are moments in the game where you're controlling Ratchet's ship and
I mean, it's alright.
The controls are pretty good, so that's all I can really say. You do this twice and that's it. Unlike certain other games, but you know. Now as for Clank, while he still controls the gadget bots, he doesn't issue commands to them like in the original. Instead, the gadget bots could come in 3 different forms: electric, bridge, and spring drops. Spring bots. With an upgrade chip Clank gets early in the game, you can switch between them on the fly with the press of the D-pad, kinda like switching Dante styles in Devil May Cry 3, 4, and 5. Though, new to Clank's moveset is a double jump, whereas in the original, Clank can only jump then glide. This is a fairly good replacement, since I do feel like Clank feels a bit heavy when he's in glide mode in the original game. But if I remember correctly, he's a robot, and if I remember correctly, you shouldn't be on this channel! But that doesn't mean the puzzles are easy. Trust me when I say one of these, and I still feel some ounce of shame about this to this day, stumped me so hard that it took me a few days to figure it out when I was younger. But hey, most puzzles aren't supposed to be breezed through anyways, though I do wish there was an option to just skip them on repeated playthroughs like in A Crack in Time. So in general, the gameplay is honestly pretty good on a fresh new save file. Too bad this game did what Sonic Forces will later do and only have how many save files again?
1!
But overall, the core gameplay is honestly pretty good. Visually, this is still pretty great to look at. Keep in mind, I'm using 2 different footage of the game. One is captured off of the PS4 and the other is recorded off of the PS5. What's the difference between playing this on PS4 and PS5? Well, it all comes down to the frame rate.
Well, shit.
Now if you're a base gamer like me who likes a game no matter what the frame rate is, then on PS4 RNC 016 runs at 30 frames per second. But if you're a weirdo who wants every game to run at high frame rates, then on PS5 Insomniac released an update for the game to run at 60 frames per second. But either way, 30 or 60, this is an amazing looking game. Granted, some of the cutscenes are ripped right from the tie-in movie, so that's why some of these cutscenes look like they have a movie worth of budget, while other cutscenes look okay, but the contrast is night and day. It's like looking at the CGI cutscenes of Edgy the Hedgy, then looking at the in-game cutscenes. Okay, that just makes it sound like the in-game cutscenes look terrible, which they clearly don't. Point is, you can tell what's from the movie and what is exclusive to the game. The environments look amazing, especially some of the old plans like Iridia, Novalis, and Rilgar. Some of the places did get spruced up and changed like Velda and Kerwan, and I think they look beautiful. OST wise,
I mean, it's alright.
But the original 2002 OST is still great. In fact, I'm more surprised that Insomniac didn't remix some of the old Planet tracks for this game, kind of like what they did for Ratchet 3. But that isn't to say the OST is bland. There is an effort to make this movie like to tie into the actual film, but I think doing that kind of made this not that memorable. I don't know, it could be just me, but I think the OST is very middle of the road for me. So, let's recap. I think the story is okay, gameplay is solid, visually is absolutely amazing, and OST is meh. So here are my closing thoughts. Overall, Ratchet Clank 2016 is not what I would consider a bad game, but the flaws in how its story is told is what I consider my biggest issue with the game. I just don't like it when complete strangers instantly become friends at the snap of my fingers. To bring a pretty good example, and so I could talk about this movie, the Lego Movie 1 did this whole becoming friends thing with Emmett and the Master Builders pretty solid, because at first they just dismissed Emmett, but later he proved his worth to Lucy and the others in his small group, and eventually the other Master Builders. That is what I want when it comes to either a duo forming a deep bond or a group forming a deep bond. The gameplay fits right at home with the other games, i.e. 2002 to Into the Nexus outside of All for One and that other damn game. And as I said before, I don't judge games based on frame rates, so whether I'm playing this at 30 frames per second on PS4 or 60 frames per second on PS5, I am perfectly content with how the game looks. And so far, the only other thing that I don't like would be the OST. So overall, Ratchet & Clank PS4 gets my score of a 7.5 out of 10. But now I want to know from you all, did you play RNC 016? What did you think of it? And is it something you would recommend to a friend? Leave your answers and more down in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and while you're here, consider subscribing and turn on the bell to be notified whenever I make a new video. As always, my social media links are down below. I've been Horrorkid, and before I jump into the Ratchet & Clank movie, I want to get some other videos out. Until then, hope you all are looking forward to these. Till then, take care everybody.